confuse me because when there's too many acronyms that are the similar letters, it's like it gets difficult really quickly. So
it does. You have only one brain, and you can barely fit that in your head as it is.
Exactly. There's too many muscles and bone fragments.
I was going to say bubble wrapping. Too much bubble wrapping up there.
That's the one.
That's what works to stop the brain sloshing around. So if you like fall over, then it's like you can hear it pop sometimes.
Yeah, because you don't want it to bash the inside of the head, because that would be bad, wouldn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. For people with small brains, you need lots of bubble wrapping.
Lots of padding around it. Yeah, exactly. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the STC. That's the name of this podcast. It's the Story Time Cast. We've been away for a little bit. It's I had someone come over from Germany, and then this guy went off to a foreign land on an adventure.
Yeah.
So we're a couple of weeks late, but this is like Christmas. This is a Christmas special. You get to enjoy this. You can watch it over and over again during the Christmas holidays if you want.
Yes.
So it's special. It's special.
Like you.
Yeah, like me. We were just talking about my special brain, because I do struggle to remember the name of this podcast that we're on because of all the letters and all the fiddly bits that are going around.
How are you with names in general? I'm terrible with names.
Not great. I'm not as bad as you are. I can remember the names of people that I've met several times.
Okay.
But that's about... If I've only met them once, it's a bit of a worry. My biggest problem, and the thing that I am most ashamed of, is meeting lovely people at our events.
Yes.
And either knowing them as, like, James or Ben or something, and then not knowing what their name is online when they say something to me like, oh, that was cool the other day, and I'm like, who's Frogmaster 900? But someone needs to say to me, that's Ben or that's James.
Yeah.
And then it's also the other way around. If I only spoke to them as like Cool Guy 17, and then it's like, oh, it's Dave, we met before. I'm like, I only know Cool Guy 17.
The way to navigate that is only call people by their handles, Cool Guy 17, Frogspawn 69, whatever. If you stick to that, because there's a lot of Bens and there's a lot of Jameses.
There is.
And there's a lot of Euphrates Keelers out there. So you have to stick to the thing that they want to be. I mean, for example, you on your handle on the thing that we're recording on, you're always Warsmith Chris to me, because there's many Chris's. There's Dark Angels Chris and things. But you changed it. So oh dear. Calamity. So I couldn't find you because you changed your thing. Why did you change your thing? Are you just doing it to why?
I'm just doing it to cause problems. What it was
that
didn't it? On Discord you can change your name on different servers, right? So if you've got a server with your mates, you can call yourself like Frogspawn 69, but your name stays as Warsmith Chris or whatever. I changed my name for another server. And what I did actually do was I changed my root name to Beastlord Chris instead of Warsmith. So at some point, I'll navigate through that and I'll change it back, and then everyone will find me.
But why? Why did you change? Why did you feel the need to change it at all and confuse everyone here?
Because at the moment I'm buying lots of Beastmen for a Beasts of Chaos army, for the old Age of Sigmar, and I just got very beasty, a lot of bestiality.
Okay.
And it made me want to be called Beastlord Chris for a little bit, and I just changed the wrong name, and now I'm Beastlord Chris. That's it. It's changed. Okay. And unless I go and spend some time checking which bit changes what name where, that's my name now, Beastlord Chris of the Beasts of Chaos.
Hi, Beastlord Chris. What do you like? Do you like Grey's Anatomy, long walks in the park, and bestiality?
Obviously. Otherwise, you wouldn't be a Beastlord, would you? I like hanging out with goat men. That kind of stuff. So, it's great. Have you never thought about having a different moniker? Are you just happy with winters? I mean, it's seasonal at the moment, isn't it? Because we're in the winter.
I'm not very good with names.
Your own name?
So changing my own would only lead to confusion, imprisonment, and it would go badly.
Would you wake up in the morning and be like, who am I? Who am I? And then your wife says your name, and it's like, who's that? I don't know who that is. Who are you referring to? It's not me. Yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So
I
names
was that
are
guy
names are
in
a thing.
class
Yeah, names are a thing.
that
That's
used
cool.
to call the teachers mum and dad all the time. That was me. Not just once, but many times.
Have you, when you finish phone calls, do you accidentally ever say "love you" at the end of it?
Well, no, not accidentally. I say "love you" all
say
the
it
time.
Because you mean it, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people that grew up only calling members of their family and finish the call, all right, love you, mum, bye. It can become second nature, to just assume that you're talking to your mum and then say love you at the end. But, it's happened a few times.
I love you, Beast Lord.
Thanks, man. That's really kind of you to say.
I love you.
I love you too.
There needs to be more love in the world, doesn't there? There needs to be more love.
Autumn SEO. Hey?
Autumn. No, it doesn't have the same ring to it.
It doesn't, does it?
It doesn't.
And it's the main dude from Band of Brothers. That's it, isn't it? It's not about the seasons. It's about him being a badass. That's what it's named after.
That's where it originally came from. That handle, yes, from Captain Winters from Band of Brothers. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and that kind of stuck because that was the handle I was using. So.
And the SEO means sexy emo operator, right?
Actually, well, yes. There were a number of people in the Winters SEO Discord, which you can become if you become a tier 2 channel member, you get access to the Discord, which gave me a lot of different SEOs, what it could potentially stand for. I do know that amongst the SEOs themselves, SEO does stand for sucks everyone off.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. But that is not true, of course, because that would be exhausting.
It would take a while.
But, yeah. It would take a long time.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, anyway, yeah. No, we're not sucking. That was it. Okay, so last time, the SCC is on a lore adventure. That's what we embarked on, this lore adventure together, right? We got inside our shuttle and we went all the way back in time to the very start of the Warhammer 40,000 universe, and we've been slowly cruising. Well, actually, not slowly. We've been moving quite fast because it's been a few million years already. We're cruising our way up into the 40,000s, and then we can take a look at other things. But for now, we're working our way back to the 41st millennium or the 42nd millennium, wherever we're at in the lore.
Yep.
And last episode, which was a month ago, was we were looking at the Emperor and the rude things that happened with his Thunder Warriors, with his crusade, with his bringing people back to the light, bringing people to him, and sorting out terror, and the eventual demise of the Thunder Warriors, who we did. We told you the version where they all heroically died in battle, and the very last one planted the flag and took a bullet to the chest, and he strained to put it on there.
Yeah.
But records would suggest otherwise, that perhaps some Golden Boys, some of the new replacement post-humans, and the Emperor might have gotten rid of them, which leads us up into this episode, where we're going to take a little delve into the Emperor's toolbox. So, with the Thunder Warriors away, the Emperor needed a new post-human, a new genetic hybrid to do his bidding and to act in his stead. But I think it's safe to say that he approached the Space Marine project and the Primarchs with a slightly more long-term plan than the Thunder Warriors, who were very short-term, very aggressive and very flawed. These guys were designed as a complete Swiss Army knife. And what I was thinking we could do is we could just very casually work our way through the Primarchs.
Okay. I hope you've got a list written down, because
I do have a list.
Names.
I know
Nice.
them. I know them off by heart anyway, but I do have a list of the order they're in, because I do sometimes forget the order. And we could just talk about what function, what their purpose was, because
okay,
as we've discussed a little bit in previous episodes is that each Primarch and essentially each Legion as well, who is from their genetic material, has their own function. And
yes,
whilst we see that a little bit in on the tabletop game with our like chapter tactics and things like that, they were very much designed to do completely different things to each other and be used in different situations.
They were designed to do different things to each other. That's a great line.
But yes, we've got.
I like it.
We might as well just crack on. We'll work our way through. We've got. Yeah, sorry.
Well, just as a footnote, one thing people remember. I mean, the Thunder Warriors were a blunt tool that was designed to pacify and unify a world.
Yes.
And obviously, you needed a bit more than that to pacify and unify a galaxy. Mm-hmm. It can't just be one thing. So you need all the different blades on the Swiss Army knife, hence the Space Marines. But people often forget that the 10,000 came first. The Golden Boys came first, even before Amara Astartes, even before the Primarch project. The Emperor started strong. His bestest and greatest genetic achievement was the Custodes, and he did them first. And they were always, as far as the lore is concerned, always around, always with him. He knew what he was doing with the Thunder Warriors, and he knew he needed something different to unify the galaxy.
Yes.
And that's why each of the Space Marine Primarchs, and therefore their legions, have a different flavour and had a different role in mind. So just underscoring, full stopping that one for you.
It's also important to note, because we do intend to be here for people that at any level of the lore, really, whether you're just starting out or whether you're quite seasoned. The Custodes are not Astartes. They're not Space Marines. They are a different thing entirely, and they are the best of the best. Is the best way. They're kind of like the SAS of the Emperor's creations, right? They're the elite group that each of them is a hero. Each of them, the things they do. I mean, we'll probably do an episode on the Custodes entirely in the future on its own, because of the stuff they do and the trials they go through, and just the ability of a single custodian is a pretty big thing. So they are separate. So it's worth bearing in mind.
They're built different.
They are
literally built different,
quite literally
on a molecular level.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas human beings, teenage kids, no, younger than teenage kids, boys, are manipulated into becoming Space Marines. The Custodes are genetically engineered at a molecular level at the very start, from birth or even pre-birth. So it's a different process.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Custodes, it takes a long time to make a Custodes. A Space Marine, you can put 1,000 humans through the trial and one of them might make it. So that's pretty good odds.
I've been working on some of those recently. Anyway, the other thing to preface this as well is that the object. So the reason that these legions and the Primarchs are essentially required at this point is because the plan is. So we discussed the implications of Old Night and the things that had happened before, which basically split humanity apart, and the Emperor's next goal was to unify planets that have not been in contact with Terra for a long time, right? That have gone through their own histories, essentially. They have got their own civilizations, essentially, that have come from humans, from those initial days where humans had gone out to the stars and were exploring. You have all these people, and some of them they've got no concept of an Imperium, and there's no concept of Terra anymore. They're just completely isolated. So the reason why this toolkit is needed is because there's going to be so many different kinds of societies, civilizations that have risen up on their own, that you need a complex set of skills, because everyone's going to have to, if the goal is to bring them back bring them back into the fold or die, essentially, you can't approach that the same way with everyone. So
yeah, you need many different tools to unify the galaxy. The other thing that the Horus Heresy does nail in the books every now and then is often the difference is the Space Marines. So right for the first book, Horus Rising, there is an emperor on that world, the false Imperium. There are essentially Space Marines there. There's power armors and bolters and everything like that. But all the tech that they have is for normal human scale. And the reason why that planet doesn't make it, the reason why that planet cannot withstand the Astartes, is because of the Astartes. It's mentioned in various books again and again. The difference between just being a great crusader, I mean, you could go back 10,000 years and you could have some humans that go across the galaxy and take over this place, a bunch of worlds, a bunch of systems, and get on really well and defeat the aliens, but they would eventually fall because being a normal human being, no matter how technologically advanced that normal human being is and how much kit and how much guns and how much flamethrowers you give them, isn't enough. You need something more. You need something tougher, stronger, faster that can survive and withstand almost any kind of damage done to it. I mean, short of crushing a spinal column or breaking a skull in a Space Marine can be turned into a dreadnought, or can be bionically rebuilt or genetically rebuilt. So the difference in the lore again and again is the Space Marines. That's the reason why they were built in that way.
Yep.
Because you needed something special, and they were a mixed bag because you had mixed things that you needed to throw different sauce in the sandwich, so the sandwich could taste slightly different here and slightly different there. All the same sandwich across the galaxy, it wouldn't cut it, because on this side of the galaxy they might be vegan, and on the other side of the galaxy they really might like BLT. And who doesn't like bacon? I mean, seriously.
If they're lactose intolerant, then you can't give them that delicious cheese sandwich or the ploughman's.
No.
So
yeah,
there's serious implications for that. The other thing as well is that you're sending. I mean, at this point in time, so with the birth of the legions, as it were, we didn't have this chapter structure that you know from Warhammer 40,000. So there were a lot more Space Marines, but still, they were taking on an entire planet's worth of population. You need to have something a bit stronger in your corner to be able to. You can't have one man is worth three or something, because they are vastly outnumbered, even in their much higher numbers they were at the beginning. So, I mean, we touched briefly on how the Primarchs came about. I think at the moment we're just going to focus on what they were for, and we can slip in a bit of the lore about how they ended up, because there's a lot to it. We're going to have to break this down over time, because the Primarchs initially are not with their legions, but the Space Marines are made from their genetic material, so we can talk about what they were designed for without them being present as such, right?
Yes. I mean, if we just stick to what each of them is for, then that will take a whole episode.
Yes, because we have 20 of them, although there won't be 20, but there are 20. So there are 20.
But yeah.
21 if you listen to the hype. So we lose a couple. Now,
yes, and we should have lost more. Let's put it that way. There were a couple more failures in there, but the Emperor is a forgiving father.
Now, as far as I'm concerned, so from all the books that I've read, you don't really talk about these guys, but when you do, it is suggested that they have done something that cannot be forgiven, right? And they are eradicated, and not just eradicated, they are completely scratched out of the records, right?
Yes, and it's a sense of shame and disappointment as well. It's not like, oh, there was another heresy. It was, even the Primarchs really don't like talking about it. They know they shouldn't talk about it. They sometimes occasionally fall into the trap of saying a few things here or there, but it is like, there was a failure.
Yeah.
There was a failure amongst their brothers and a failure on behalf of the Emperor. And, they don't really like to talk about that sort of thing. You don't talk about that uncle at the party. In fact, you try not to invite that uncle.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there. We do know that one of the legions was executed by the Space Wolves, because in Prospero Burns, Leman Russ says he's done it before. But the implication throughout the Horus Heresy is that happened once, not twice. The second one is a bit more of a mystery.
Okay. And in terms of the 2021 Primarchs, without spoiling too much, have we... Because I haven't read the latest series of books. Have we had any more clues to follow on that one? Or where are we at?
I think the latest Primarch book to come out was the Death Guard one, Mortarian's book.
Yeah.
No more clues there. It was very Mortarian. It was, okay. I'm going to kill everything. So, yeah, no more clues. I don't think it's something that they want to cover. I think Dan Abnett has said that he would love to do it if they asked him, but he doesn't want to do it. Because he thinks there should always... And Graham McNeil said a similar thing as well. There should always be gaps. There should always be these... You don't want all your mysteries answered.
Yeah, and a lot of our understanding of the lore comes from an imperial perspective. Even the codexes have gone out their way to give it that flavour sometimes.
Yeah,
and it's erased. They're completely erased from records. This is outside of our time, outside of recordings. Anyway, we're 20 minutes in. Let's have a look at the first Primarch, the very first Primarch, and that will be Lionel, who will become the Primarch of the Dark Angels and the first. So
not the first one found, though.
Not the first one found.
First one found being Horus himself. Yeah. Well, according to official law, Horus himself, but not what actually happened.
Yeah.
So not the first one found at all by a long way, and certainly not the first one that communicated with the Emperor. That would probably be Magnus, because he's talked about being able to communicate with the Emperor while he was still in the gestation pod before he was even born, because he is a psychic creature. But we have Lionel Johnson, the Lion of Caliban, Lord of the First Legion. And the First Legion, of course, were used as a before Space Marines even became legions. The First Legion was the First Legion, the first batch of Space Marines produced, and they were split into Firewing, Dreadwing, Deathwing, Ravenwing. There were the 6 wings.
Yep.
Ironwing. And it's really good. If you read the Horus Heresy rule book, you can see in each of the wings there's a bit of White Scars Raven Guard. There's a bit of Emperor's Children in there. There's a bit of brutality and terror in there with Night Lords and Raven Guard type stuff. They were the template. These wings were designed to function in certain ways and complete certain tasks or perform war, go about their actions in certain ways, and from those wings the other legions were then became specialists in what they did. So right from the very start, there was a route to there was specialization right at the very start. There was a need to specialize right at the very start, even amongst the First Legion itself. But we're talking about the Primarchs.
Yes,
are we?
Yes, we are. So, in your opinion, then, what was the role of Lionel L. Johnson? What was his tool on the Swiss Army knife in terms of for the Emperor?
He is. So there's a couple of the Primarchs that overlap. You'll notice that there is a good guy and a bad guy as far as the Horus Heresy comes that do roughly the same thing. He needed more than one legion to do the same thing. But in Lionel Johnson's Primarchs novel, it is mentioned that he is most like the Emperor. So Lionel Johnson's flaw is that he doesn't understand humans very much, emotions, spirituality, the way humans are. He's so far beyond humanity, he doesn't really get us very. And he's also, in his book and in the Horus Heresy, he's one of the very few Primarchs that actually talks to his captains and lieutenants and says, what did he mean by that? Is he lying to me? He's genuinely asking questions about certain human interactions and keeps counsel around him because, he is the general of the Emperor's army. He is the most like the Emperor, which means his superpower, because they all have superpowers, is everything comes easily to him.
Yep.
He is really good at fighting. He's really good general. He's a really good tactician. He's really good at orbital warfare. Some of the other Primarchs have commented to Lionel Johnson, how do you know that? How can you do that? How can you... He's just gifted in the way that the Emperor is gifted, but without all the magical stuff.
Yeah.
So he is just a genius on many, many, many levels, with the flaw being that he doesn't get people very much, and he is supposed to be the first, the best general of the First Legion.
I find about him as well is that he embodies the in a similar way to Sanguinius. He embodies the kind of hero of myth character. I mean, you've got Caliban, the setting of Caliban already. It's the Dragon Slayer and all this kind of stuff, and knights and castles. But obviously, one of the things that he does, which is a big thing on the planet, is that he basically sets about destroying all these creatures of myth, right? Or these one-of-a-kind monsters all over the place. And I think that really sets him up as your archetypal hero of a story who goes out and slays the big bad monster and everyone cheers. And it is brought up a lot in the Horus Heresy books, especially. You do notice that there is a lot of attention drawn to the fact that he's not always that good at communication and understanding. I think they come back to it quite a lot, and I think it does set him up as this I don't want to say like a one-dimensional hero character, but he is that kind of...
It's actually...
He is that...
He's actually written rather well, and he's actually written rather consistently. Perturabo, for example, being one of the most inconsistently written characters. He's actually written rather consistently. His drive to overcome darkness, to overcome evil, to kill the monsters, like you say, is just innate with him.
Yeah.
And sometimes, for example, in Imperium Secundus, it leads him to extremes where other Primarchs would not go. He will do whatever it takes, including dropping nuclear bombs on one of his brother's home planets in order to wipe out evil. Which perhaps he shouldn't have gone that far, but yeah, he's the embodiment of the Emperor's will in order to overcome evil, no matter the cost.
Yeah. He's a hero character. Oh, someone's at the door.
He is.
Okay, so
second one.
Second one done. You can move past that one.
Yep.
The third Legion. The third Legion is a very interesting one. So this is
Fulgrim.
Yeah, the Emperor's Children. Now, I'm interested to hear what you say about this. I know that Fulgrim's characteristics are that he is an exceptionally talented person when it comes down to art and music, and is exceptional with a sword. Everything that requires delicate dexterity and sleight of hand and things like that, he's exceptional at, right? He is. He's obviously beautiful as well, and he understands beauty. And before all the bad things happen, that's what his character is very much written into, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's a force to be reckoned with. He's extremely deadly. So what?
Yes.
What was he there for?
So the Emperor's Children are a legion, like the Dark Angels, like the Ultramarines. They are eventually at Legion strength. Their history is somewhat complicated, though, because their genetic stocks were destroyed earlier in the very early days of the Horus Heresy. Mm-hmm. So before they were reunited with their Primarch, they couldn't the gene seed from the pronogenoid gland was the only way to make more Space Marines. They couldn't just churn them out like they did for the other legions. And obviously you can't recover every single progenoid gland when a Space Marine falls. So by the time they actually met up with Fulgrim, there was only 300 of them left. Some source material says 200, some says 300. I think in the Horus Heresy books, the rule books, it says 200, but it's supposed to be 300. You know, like the 300 from Thermopylae, that awesome film?
Yep.
So there was very few of them left, and they're the only legion that were allowed to wear the Emperor's Aquila on their breastplate, because the Emperor was so proud of them. They survived because of they strive to be perfect in all things. They are the manifestation of ambition. So ambition, as we all know, can lead to horror and cocaine and prostitutes and a 6x4 jail cell somewhere in Chile. It can go badly.
Yes.
But ambition in the good sense gets us to Vincent van Gogh and losing your ear, and John Lennon and getting shot in the street, and Isaac Newton. And it can also go badly. No, it's ambition. It's the need to be the best at what you do. And when you translate that to Space Marines, it means become the best individual warrior that they can be. That's where all the art comes into it. It's very important for the Emperor's Children, very important for Fulgrim as well, to if he strive to do something. So the forging of the hammer and the sword between him and his old friend Ferrus Manus. As a master forger, if he put all of his soul into it, he will make the most masterful weapon ever. If he wanted to write some poetry, he would put all of his soul into it. It would be the best poem ever. Things come easily to Lionel Johnson. Things do not necessarily come easily to Fulgrim, but when he pours himself into it, they will be the best manifestation of that.
Okay.
And this manifests in his legion as they like fast attacks, they like elite attacks, they like to do the most they can with the minimal amount of resources. Because they're all so perfect at what they do. In his Primarchs novel, he takes a world with, I think it's 5 Space Marines. Him and 5 Space Marines pacify a world. Because his other Primarchs, his other brothers said it couldn't be done. So he went, I'll show you. And he went and did it with like 5 of them, I think, or maybe 3. It wasn't very many.
So that's interesting.
So yeah, the strive for ambition and to be perfect. And if you're going to set out on a task such as making the STD podcast, then it's going to be the greatest podcast in the world. And you're going to get the name right.
Yeah. So one of the things we didn't actually... we didn't finalise with Lionel Johnson is what kind of situation do you think that he would be best used in? So we were talking about the fact that, you know, he is that heroic archetype triumphing over evil or whatever. If the Emperor sets him on a planet, he'll do whatever it takes to destroy that, to beat that thing, right? Whether that's nuke it to bits or take his legions down and conquer it like a true hero, right? So in that case, is Fulgrim's purpose a little bit more subtle? Is it the fact that knowing that he has the desire to achieve perfection, is he almost there to be somewhat manipulated into doing things which might be overwhelming for another Primarch? Like, if you have to take a planet with 5 guys, is that what he's there for, do you think? Or do you think he had a more obvious use?
See, the reason why I went back to his legion were almost wiped out and then he appeared and then everything's okay is because for over 100 years during the Horus Heresy, prior to the Horus Heresy, during the Great Crusade, the Emperor's Children worked side by side by the Sons of Horus. And they are closely entwined with the Lunar Wolves, for a very long... Because they... Towards the end, in particular, they couldn't function as a standalone legion. They always needed to work alongside them. So the interesting question that comes out of it is, the manifestation of what they became was, and what Fulgrim became, was predetermined by what happened to them 170 years before the outbreak of the Horus heresy. They became what they needed to be in order to survive, and that's why Fabius Bile became more... He's the mad scientist, the Frankenstein, manipulating, doing whatever he can to try and save the Legion. Did they become... They became that because of the circumstances that they were in. Was that the Emperor's original intent? Did they have another intent? Did they have another... I would argue that they probably did have another goal. They probably did have... I would argue that the Third Legion, a bit probably like the Second Legion, which we know nothing about, and the First Legion, were probably originally meant to be some of the Founding Legions, and they were just supposed to do what they do, which is absolute war, absolute bloodshed. One of the other things about the Emperor's Children, though, which is very unique to them, well, not very unique to them, but there's only a couple of legions that get it. The Death Guard are pretty good on it as well. But one of the unique things about the Emperor's Children is that their sense of brotherhood and their sense of loyalty to the Emperor is really hardcore, is on a level that's higher than most of the other legions. So at the Isstvan III, for example, so when Horus turned against the Emperor, there was the 4 original traitor legions, and he cut away the loyalists from each of these legions. The Emperor's Children had the highest number of loyalists in their rank. It was split about 40-60. Almost half of all the Emperor's Children did not want to go with Fulgrim because their sense of loyalty, their sense of brotherhood, their sense of belonging to the Emperor is also coded in them in a very, very deep way. So the Emperor's Children's story and the Emperor's Children role is blurred by their history, and the perfection thing came because of what they had to do. I suspect that they was originally just supposed to be a really, really strong, powerful legion that are good at what they do, with the brotherhood baked in it. So that's what I think, but we don't know.
Yeah, a little less obvious.
There's some blurred lines here as we go through all the Primarchs. There's some blurred stuff. Sorry,
no, that's fine. I was just saying that I think there are some that are clearly more role-based than others, but I think you're right in the fact that perhaps these early legions are just designed to be absolutely badass in general.
Yeah.
So, so after the Emperor's Children, we now have my good boy, although, like you said, he's very inconsistently written, which is a real shame, because he goes from being a really cool, complex character to being a bit of a silly cartoon villain sometimes, and sometimes he's really petulant and sometimes he's not. It's Perturabo, it's the Iron Warriors, and they do have a bit more of a sort of fixed and obvious role.
They do,
based on their Primarch. So
you hit it because you love the Iron Warriors. Inconsistent. I have to say that the Perturabo in the Primarch's book is not. There's bits in there that are not like the Perturabo and Angel Exterminatus, for example, in some of the other books. There's 2 Perturabos that we see. There's the Perturabo that's written very, very well, and the Perturabo that's not written as well as it could be. But he's a complex character. He's a good character, and his Legion definitely has a role. And what is that role, Warsmith Chris or Beastlord Chris?
Beastlord Chris. Well, I just want to go back. So I read the Primarch book and Angel Exterminatus back to back, which is an interesting thing to do. So it was very.
That's noticeable. An interesting thing to do.
And I enjoy both of them, but obviously, I wasn't really trying to fanboy Perturabo, knowing that where he is in the lore now. So they are very strictly the siege breakers. The siege experts, they have all... I mean, if you go back to the Primarch book, the way Perturabo is that he is an excellent... he's excellent at seeing the bigger picture, the whole picture. He's excellent at creating and designing and building, almost to a childish level of pettiness over it. It's got to be perfect. It's got to look this way. It's got to do that thing. And early on in his life, the things he had to do was that he had to make hard punches in when he was at war. When there was a battle, he had to find ways to punch through, and it was built into him from the start that him and his legion would be like that. Would be a sturdy. As soon as he got his legion, he did something very naughty, and that is that he decimated them, which annoyed me a little bit. But it's just the way it is. He decimated his legion. He was very sort of foot stompy, but all in all, his whole personality, everything about him, is about being extremely durable, and he is the punch. He is the siege breaker. He is the one you send to the planet where they're dug into some crazily complex fortress, and you just need to smash your way right to the heart of it and destroy your enemies from within. And he is
warriors, iron within, iron without, the unstoppable force.
And as we'll get to it later, he is a one part to the two Primarch puzzle piece.
Yes,
which their rivalry is played on a lot in the lore, but So that was, I mean, there's not much to say in terms of the toolkit. It's very obvious, and it's written very obviously of what he does. He does fortify as well. He's the fortify and break the siege.
Well, in order to tear down, you also need to understand how things are built up. But he's a very specific tool. The first of the Primarchs that we've listed so far that has got a very specific job. It is undervalued and underrated his tactical genius. There is bits in the Siege of Terror books where he is literally looking at 200 different screens at the same time, plugged into all of them and making micro calculations, and stood next to him is a chapter master equivalent who is a tactical genius in themselves, just blown away by the hundreds of thousands of calls that Perturabo is making every single minute. The guy is a genius when it comes to warfare.
Yeah.
Not just breaking stuff, but breaking down an enemy force. His curse, of course, being he always saw the Eye of Terror, or the Ocular Malefica. Since the day he was born, he looked up at the stars and he could see the Ocular Malefica, or later be called the Eye of Terror. He's the one who named it the Eye of Terror.
He did name it that, yes.
So he's literally staring into chaos from the day he was born. Mm-hmm. So his journey has been manipulated as well.
Yes.
Because 4 of them were truly manipulated from the very start. But yeah, we got him, the Iron Warriors.
He was also, I believe the Iron Warriors were the original legion that Nurgle cast an eye upon as well. I can't remember where I've read that, but it is mentioned somewhere that Nurgle initially had seen the Iron Warriors as a target, but found a way to the Death Guard. But anyway, so nice. I mean, there's not much else to say. The other flaw, of course, is the fact that he is a bit tantrumy, and sort of the way he's written is that he obviously feels a little bit hard done by and underappreciated, which doesn't help things.
Yeah. In a very simple sense, it's in the name. Perturabo can sometimes be a bit petty.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. And when you have a Primarch who can sometimes be a bit petty, worlds die.
Yeah. And your Legion gets decimated as well, which is rude.
Yeah, every now and then. Yeah.
Right, the 5th Primarch. This is the Primarch I know least about, so you're going to have to fill in most of this one. Obviously, I've got my ideas of what this Primarch is useful for. Or
Are we on the 6th?
No, we're on the 5th. We're on the White Scars. We're on to Jaghatai Khan.
Yes.
What do you have to say?
So
about
Jaghatai Khan, in his simplest form, his Primarch novel is also good. In his simplest form, he is the Legion. He is the guy to go further, deeper, faster than anyone else. There's a nice opening bit in his Primarch novel, like when he moves through the Imperial Palace, he moves like a storm. When he has a conversation, he says things very quickly. He's always restless, always moving, always quick, Jaghatai Khan and the White Scars are speed and distance. They don't even know the Horus Heresy is happening until about 2 years later. They've gone so far out into the galaxy, or a year later. It's a couple of years in when they figure out, 1 minute, there's a heresy going on back here. And they nearly take on the space war. They nearly get turned to the bad guy's side because they're listening to these guys talk and don't really know who's speaking. Horus has turned traitor. Horus would never ever turn traitor. The Space Wolves have destroyed the Thousand Suns. They must be evil, and we always know those wolfy dogs. They were all. He's the guy that goes farther, faster, quicker, deeper, harder than anyone else, and never ever ever stops. There's lots of stories of other legions coming to systems and finding that they were actually unified and pacified 100 years earlier, because the White Scars got there way before them. So, in simplest term, when we talk about the Emperor's toolbox, he is the arrow, the flaming arrow on the bow that's been launched into space by the Emperor and trusted to. You just go get them. You just do it.
Which obviously translates.
He's shooting for the distant.
Their whole
shooting
game,
for the distant star.
Their whole game plan is obviously based around being a fast, hard-hitting army, right? So
speed, always in the saddle.
Yeah. Am I right in saying as well that I might be wrong with this? I'm not sure. But after all the everything that went down in the Horus Heresy, Jaghatai Khan kind of shoots off into the warp somewhere, continuing the tradition of going deeper, further, faster. Does he go chasing people and disappeared?
Sometime after the Horus Heresy, Jaghatai Khan is all the rumours and all the history that we've been taught about the Horus Heresy, some of it has been blown out of the water. We don't, and some of it has changed. But he allegedly has gone into the webway to try and find the Black Library, and he's lost in the webway. That's where he's supposed to be.
It's very tricksy in there. There's murder clowns and murder elves and all kinds of stuff in there. You want to be careful.
Yes, but he is the fastest weapon. If the Emperor wanted to unleash speed, he would unleash Jaghatai Khan. You would be the Empire that he put you against would be dead before you even knew that you were under attack. That was their thing.
Okay. The 6th Legion are pretty much what it says on the tin, right? So we've got Leman Russ and the Space Wolves, and they are the hounds of the Emperor, right? Would you agree? Or is that just something that bitter chaos players
No. The Space Wolves are one of the legions that we know very, very clearly because they got 2 really good books, Thousand Suns and Prospero Burns. They also have a really good Primarch novel, and it spells it out in no uncertain terms. And so the good thing about the Thousand Suns and Prospero Burns is it shows it from the opponent's point of view and shows it from their point of view. And it's one of those stories, it doesn't matter whether you're looking at it from that angle or looking at it from that angle, the Space Wolves are the Space Wolves. Yep. The Space Wolves are the Emperor's executioner. If the Emperor wants a species dead, they send the Space Wolves. And in the burning of Tisca and the burning of Prospero, they destroyed everything. They are... So, again, 2 sides to every coin. There's 2 legions like this. There's a lot of legions that are the same. The World Eater's been the other one. But when the Space Wolves attacked Tisca, they killed every man, woman, child, baby. They destroyed every single building. They left the planet a smoking nuclear apocalyptic
it was ashes.
ruin. When you unleash the Space Wolves on an enemy, they will kill everything, and they cannot be stopped. Ahriman tried to soul sight Leman Russ the first time he sees him, tries to pierce him and see and he opened his mind to the warp to see Leman Russ and basically almost killed himself because it was like looking into a heart of the word Graham McNeil used is a supernova. This is an unstoppable force. You would not want to get in the way of this. Indeed, one of the galaxy's most powerful wizards of all time, other than Malcador or the Emperor, being Magnus the Red, one of the most powerful wizards of all time went against Leman Russ, and he couldn't withstand his fury. Leman Russ and the Space Wolves just murder everything. And they are happy to do it. They're pleased to do it. Oh, and this is a bit in the Prospero Burns book as well. When they do it, there's mentions at the beginning, there's mentions when they do it, they torture and kill and maim. They do it in the most brutal way possible. And the Space Wolves will tell the Remembrance who was recording this is because they're making the Maleficarum, the evil, whether it's actually of the warp or not. It could just be a little frog minding its own business. It could be a llama. It could be a demon. But when they're doing it in the most gruesome way possible and enjoying it because they want to scare the evil out. Let the evil know that something more terrible than them exists in the universe. They are torturous, murderous, barbaric bastards, and they love it.
Yeah, and there is that kind of allegory for the Viking raids. You know, it's not that aesthetic is not Mars at all.
No,
they're supposed
and
to,
God bless them,
to mirror that.
They're lovely.
Barbara. But
yeah,
the same way the Vikings, we still see them as sort of a protagonist force, as like they're good despite the incredible cruelty and barbarism that they can exhibit. Okay, so I mean, there's not really any other way to look at Leman Russ other than
there's no subtlety with them, and
to kill.
Yeah, and there isn't supposed to be any subtlety with them, and you absolutely need to get out of their way. They are the Legion that is designed. Yeah, they're the Legion that the other Legion fears.
Yeah. Unlike our next Primarch, who is the other piece of the puzzle to Perturabo. This is Rogal Dorn, with the Imperial Fists. Now, Dorn is the fortifier, the builder, the one who is entrusted with terror. You know, the one who dealt with the home issues was trusted to be the defense, right? So whereas Perturabo was the hammer blow that smashes the wall, he's the anvil that takes the impact, right?
Yeah. Unstoppable force, immovable object. So the Arm Warriors being an unstoppable force, the Empress, the Imperial Fists being the immovable object. He's more than that, though. He is the Praetorian of the Emperor.
Yep.
When the Emperor went back to Terra to work on the Webway project, he brought the Imperial Fists back here. He is the Emperor's Castellan. He absolutely will not break. There's a beautiful bit in one of the books, I forget it is, where you can't read the scrap code. The scrap code is like a virus, a chaos virus. And if it gets into your computer or even listen to it or even talk to it or engage with it in any way, you get a little bit of chaos in you. And scrap code again and again and again and again through the heresy is shown that as soon as someone engages with this, you put a little bit of black in the white paint and forever you're grey. That's the beginning of the end for you. And Rogal Dorn stares into it and reads it and goes, oh, it's chaos, and then just carries on with his day. So he understands what it is. He's able to immerse himself in the scrap code and not be touched by it. He is the unbreakable. He's the Castellan. He is the Bastion. He is I think in the Primarch novel, he is the rock on which the Empire is built. And you need that. You need that foundation.
Do you forgive him for punching Nathaniel Garrow?
Well, no, I don't forgive him for. But that shows, though, because. Well, yeah, I mean that's a really cool bit in the book.
They're masters so
in. Yeah, it's so cool, man. Are you blind? That's what Garrow says. And bang! It's a beautiful bit in the book.
Yeah.
They're also excellent at. Not because of siege warfare, they're also excellent at boarding actions.
Yep.
Originally, as a legion, during the start of the Great Crusade, they were more used to boarding actions, spacefaring actions, shipping things like that, which is the Crimson Fist, which is so there's a number of different factions within the Imperial Fists. You have the Black Templars, all dressed in black, and they were the swords masters. The Crimson Fist are the expert space battlers who can break apart any formation, any armada. He was very good at what he did. The Primarch novel is so good as well. But Dorn is good. Dorn, I like his character.
Yeah. I've been forced as a... anyone who listens to anything else I've done, I've often made a joke of Rogal Dorn and talked about how boring he is and stuff like that, as playing the part of the Iron Warrior. But as I've moved more onto the Night Lords, in terms of the Legion lore, I've absolutely fallen in love with the Night Lords over time, and obviously reading the Night Lords books is a big... I think a lot of people who read them suddenly fall in love with them. But Rogal Dorn is a very, very important and stable part of the Imperium up until that point, up until a point anyway, and is incredibly important for the things that happened. So, he's a good egg, solid lad,
he's and a good plus,
egg. Was any other Legion allowed to walk around on Terra in the Imperial Palace? Like, anyone else get that privilege of guarding it?
Well, whole Legion, probably not. He's utterly trusted by the Emperor.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything you need to know about Rogal Dorn. He utterly trusts him. Okay.
This next one, we've actually talked about this. I think at the end of the last one, you told a fantastic story that I hadn't heard before. This is Konrad Curze and the Night Lords.
Yes.
You told the story about how there was this city that existed in like a hole and no one could breach it.
Yes.
And they basically dropped some Night Lords in the bottom. They worked their way up. I think there's no subtlety here either. These are the Terror troops. These are the ones that you slip in the back door under the cover of night, and they absolutely savour the death of all things.
There's that bit in his Primarchs book where he talks to Corax, right? And Corax says, "Why did you do this to this world? Murder, torture them, and put them on the TV across all the other sister. It was what you did there was truly horrific. You did some Hellraiser shit. You did some Friday the 13th shit to babies. Why did you do that?" And that's because, well, all the other planets in the system and all the other worlds in the system gave up straight away.
Yep.
And Curze says, well, which is. He's got a point when he says, yes, he slaughtered one world, but he probably saved more lives than taken. He is you send in the Night Lords when fear is the tool that you need, when fear will do it.
And interestingly as well, the Night Lords hold that position in terms of when you're trying to take back or win over a galaxy. In real warfare, you have options. But the kind of Terror option has been opted for many times in the past. Reputation alone can do terrible things. I know that I don't want to bring it too much into real world warfare, but there have been situations, in World War II where people would rather jump to their death than submit to an enemy that they've been that they're aware of the reputation of.
Well, you can think about Genghis Khan and the Khans. Their whole cities gave in rather than get taken over by the Mongols. He's the Terror guy. Curze is a bit more complicated than that because Curze he's the judge. He was to be the arbiter of the imperial truth. Mm-hmm. A good Curze, not an evil Curze, would have known when you've been naughty and known when you've been nice. And he would have kept a list and written it twice. He was that guy, and you definitely didn't want him to unleash his judgment upon you, which would have been terror.
And I know it's biased because I'm a big fan of chaos, but honestly, I went from Curze being, as I was learning about the 40k lore over the many years I've been into it, Curze went from being, when I was a kid, that weird vampire-looking one with the weird-looking legions up until when we started getting Primarch books and stuff and things were being filled in. His Primarch book is fantastic. His character is fantastic. I think it's a fantastic
His story arc
character.
is excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
it's great.
thoroughly encourage.
I
you to
agree.
read
He's
it.
one of my favourite Primarchs as well, if not the favourite Primarch. It's also consistently written. It's also deeply tragic.
Yep.
There's all sorts of layers to Curze's story and the Night Lord story, and it's fantastic. But the Night Lords in sense they're the Terror Troops.
Yep.
And they've got a nut job to help them bring it about, and he's very good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing about Curze that a lot of people don't understand. You know, like we talked about, if Rogal Dorn built a bastion, then that bastion cannot be broken.
Yep.
If you wanted fast, then you brought along the Khan. Can you imagine the intelligence of a Primarch when he puts his mind to making you afraid and fear? We're talking about Einsteinian levels of horror and fear.
Yeah.
Just this one guy pacified an entire planet of criminals just through the threat of him, the fear of him.
Yeah.
Because the psychological mind games that he could play were on an order of magnitude above anything that we could ever commend. Imagine if Einstein and decided, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to make the scariest movies of all time. They would be horrifying.
Yeah,
there'd be a new cinema rating.
Yeah, the science of fear is baked into it. Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, without spoiling too much of the book, you'll see some of the ways in which he does this and the way he follows through with things, and his perspective on things is fantastic because it's not born out of. He's not like an evil villain character that goes, I will slay everyone and make them bleed.
Reasoning.
It's so good. One
ADB's
of the best
Night Lords.
Sorry, carry on.
ADB's Night Lord trilogy is a must-read, and the Primarch. There's a couple of Primarch novels that stand up above all the other Primarch novels, and his Primarch novel as well. They're must-reads if you're a 40k fan.
Right, next up we've got Sanguinius of the Blood Angels.
Yes,
very interesting Primarch actually, Sanguinius.
So a very interesting Primarch. His legion again he's one of these legions that is a legion. So there's a number of legions. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 of them that are just designed to conquer entire systems, entire sectors, and the Blood Angels is one of them.
Yep.
And then you've got the 2 halves of the Blood Angels psyche cut right down the middle, which is represented by Amit and Raldoron. The Berserk, the Black Rage side, and the other side of it. They were chosen by Khorne as the legion that the Chaos God Khorne would take. He was chosen to be the Red Angel.
Yep.
And Cygnus Prime and the entire system was set up to lure them into a trap and turn them to the side of Chaos. Which we know Khorne wasn't able to do, so he took his second best choice, being Angron and the World Eaters. So not only did Angron and the World Eaters fail the Emperor, but he's a second ran and also ran to the powers of the Chaos as well, which is why I believe Angron is the worst Primarch ever, apart from the 2 that didn't make it. They're supposed to operate as a legion is their core thing. Their flaw, though, is extremely deep, and so deep, in fact, that Chaos wanted them. But as Sanguinius points out, the path of the hero, if you, I mean, like Lionel Johnson, if everything comes easily to you and you kill this and you kill this and you kill this and you kill this and you're not really troubled by anything, then are you really being heroic, or are you just going through the motions? If every single day, every single one of your waking moments is to consume blood and eat brains. You remember the Blood Angels were originally called the Revenant chapter, and before they met Sanguinius, they literally drank blood, ate brains, and because you've got the what is it called, the Belcher's gland, not the Belcher's gland, but they can consume the brain matter of their enemies and actually learn
information.
All Space Marines can do this, get information from them. They reveled in that side of things before Sanguinius came along. They're literally the blood drinkers, the Revenants. The other chapters were really, really scared of them. And then Sanguinius pulled them back from going over that edge. So the path of the hero is a person who is an alcoholic or a drug addict, but has been clean for 20 years. The path of the hero is Dexter, who wants to murder kill, but only murder kills the bad guys. It's the path of the hero is the person who is fighting this urge to do something absolutely horrific all the time and chooses not to.
Yep.
So that noble, heroic sacrifice is deep down in their core. And then you have all the art stuff and all the painting stuff as well, because they need to distract themselves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll eat that rabbit.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're Legion strength with a deep, deep, deep flaw.
Sanguinius himself is also an extremely powerful individual in terms of, at least how he's been written anyway, in terms of what he's capable of taking on. Because the Primarchs are all extremely powerful, as we know, but there are varying degrees in how powerful they are. Does he take on does Sanguinius fight a Titan at one point?
Yeah, he takes on, in the Solar War, takes on a couple of Titans, and then stands there on the bastion and looks at the other Titan and says, come on then, bring it on. And the other Titan turns and runs away from him. He also takes on very powerful demons and other Primarchs. Sanguinius has... I mean, my dad's better than your dad. Which Primarch could beat the other Primarch? There's that thing. But Sanguinius has got a layer below where the other Primarchs can sink. I mean, he's a Primarch level skill, fury application, but he's got the rage as well. And he can tap into that. The difference between Sanguinius and his Legion is he can tap into it when he doesn't like doing it, but he can tap into it when he needs. When his Legion tap into it, they're gone.
Yeah.
And he can wings. Can fly around all over the place. Okay. They are the tragic heroes. He's also, in the Heresy as well, there's a number of the other Primarchs after Horus is elevated to War Master. Some of the other Primarchs think it should have been Sanguinius. Guilliman certainly thinks it should have been Sanguinius. Sanguinius doesn't think it should have been him. But he was the most perfect of them. Oh, and the other thing in the Horus Heresy is everyone loved Sanguinius as well. Everyone thought he was a G. Not only is he good, and when he walks out with his wings and his face, his lovely hair. They nail this point home with a sledgehammer during the Heresy. If we humans were to look upon Sanguinius, it would be like looking upon a literal angel. We would fall to our knees. We would start crying. We would lose our bladder. There's nothing. Their Legion is beauty and horror. They're on the very, very edge of falling into the pit. And some of them do.
We've just hit the halfway mark, Winters. Number 10. So should we do number 10 and then approach the next 10 in the next episode?
Okay. Yeah, we could do that because it's a lovely story. We have to hit the other 10. The first 10 Primarchs. Number 10, the Iron Tenth.
Number 10, the Iron Tenth, Ferrus Manus,
one of my favourite legions.
The Ferrus Manus,
my favourite legions.
Who most people who at least start the Horus Heresy books, who don't read it all the way through, become very familiar with Ferrus Manus and what happens. As it's a major. It's one of the. Depending on how you look at it, it's the biggest event to happen in that first. The biggest event besides the kicking off of the heresy itself that happens.
There's only a couple of guys that we know who are absolutely dead, and he's one of them.
Yeah, and it represents something so huge in the kind of biblical scale of the story, and that is the killing of a demigod. The killing of by a brother, a Cain and Abel scenario.
And by a brother who loved him dearly. They were the best of friends.
Yes.
Absolute best of friends.
Yes, and they forged each other weapons, and they patted each other on the back, and they gave each other advice. But anyway, Ferrus Manus, here's something that I don't fully understand, and that is why he was a man of metal. How did he... I don't know what happened there. I haven't read
he literally
novel.
had iron hands,
yes.
like Necrota. He literally had them.
Yes.
On the world at which he's born, there's There's volcanoes, and the trial to become an Iron Hand, to actually make it to the gates of their citadel and be let in. Let's just say, okay, let's wind up. He killed a dragon. He's basically killed dragons with his hands, and his hands are unbreakable. This living metal necrodermis stuff. There's almost certainly, I don't want to say it, look, the overlap with the Necrons is there, and it's deliberately there, but I think the Emperor must have known about the Necrons. It's like the Emperor said, okay, there's this tech that exists out there, this living metal stuff. I'm going to imbue some of that into this one.
And see how it goes.
And see how it goes.
Yeah.
Because, again, there are 2 legions that are unkillable. There are 2 legions that are built for utter resilience, that you can put them in death world scenarios, worlds inimical to life, worlds which are acidic or high gravity or burning firestorms or whatever, and they are the Death Guard, and they are the Iron Hands. So again, like the World Eaters and the Space Wolves, the Yin and Yang, there you have 2 legions here that are designed to be intractable. Yeah, so the Emperor from word go built this guy so that he is literally unbreakable, which again, when he dies, it makes it even more of a horrific thing. I mean, he was a master forge master and smiter and everything, because he could bend metal with his fingers. His strength was incredible. He could manipulate. You know, how many times have we tried to chew on that electrical cable to feed it through the thing and chipped off a bit of our teeth because because our teeth are going to be a better tool than some pliers and a thing, and we could get a bit more manipulation to it. Well, Ferrus Manus could do that with his fingers and poke it through the slot very well. The Iron Hands are the legion that you send in to that place where all the other legions, apart from the Death Guard, would probably get wiped out. They will withstand. They will endure no matter what.
Yeah,
they're born of pain.
Yeah, that's pretty much their. It's a pretty much obvious use for them.
Well, one of their mantras is "Iron endures."
Yes.
Sadrach Medusan is a great character during the Horus Heresy. You have Sons of Luna. There's a really good bit towards the end of Sons of Luna. I mean, one of the Iron Hands chapter masters is essentially in this pain machine. But he just keeps going and going and going, no matter horrific injuries being dealt, and he just keeps going. And Iron endures. Iron endures. They almost revel in the fact that they're in so much pain.
Yeah,
because The
2 pieces, the yin and the yang, as you spoke of before, with the Iron Hands, it's different. Do you think it's a deliberate crossover with the kind of Mechanicus kind of thing as well? Because they have the most dreadnoughts. They embrace being metal men, right? They embrace having bionics and being stuck in dreadnought chambers and stuff. And it does reflect a little bit as like an Adeptus Astartes version of what the Crux Mechanicum that is being sought by the Mars, the cult of Mars. Do you think that was a deliberate thing as well, or?
Well, again, in some of the short stories, it's people see they embrace it, therefore, but it's not that way around. It is Iron endures no matter what, therefore. There's lots of bionics, and they're really close to the Mechanicum. It is the end of their thought process, not the beginning of their thought process.
They're not seeking to get bellows for lungs, but if they get blown apart, they will put them in to carry on. Yeah, I get it. No.
Yeah, unlike the Mechanicum, I'm not going to slot a third eye to the side of my head and a targeting reticle over here. I'm not going to... They won't... I mean, they're still Emperor-loving, loyalist sons of bitches, and the Emperor made them as they are and gave them the tools as they are, so they're not going to harvest their bodies to make something better, like Fabius Bile might, or the Admech might. but they will use whatever means necessary in order to endure. So that naturally brought them closer to the Mechanicum. They are heavily intertwined with a number of Forge Worlds.
Yep.
And they also have, because he's such a skilled craftsman, Ferrus Manus, they have some very unique machines and very specific Terminator plates. And experimentation back then was not outlawed, was not banned, was not a manipulation, and going a bit further was not a bad thing. So they have loads of bionic stuff here or there because they endure, but they also have some very, very wonderful toys and some very, very wonderful adjustments to their Stormbirds or to their Dreadnoughts or to their Terminator plate or to their whatever they need in order to get the job done, in order to endure. I've always thought that a very good 30k Iron Hands army pre-Horus Heresy, if you saw them on the battlefield, they would look unlike any other type of Horus Heresy army or any other pre-Crusade army, because they're the guys that would stick, hey, can this Sakaran take a missile rack on the back? Yes, it can. Let's do that. Yeah. Can this do this? Yes, it can do that. Can I attach these? Yeah, so they flipped the script on all the machines as much as they needed to in order to endure. So they're also a legion. They're a legion. They're legion strength in order to destroy entire systems, in order to destroy entire sectors. But the Emperor would send them to systems and sectors which other legions would not be able to survive.
Yeah.
But the Iron with that's the thing. Sorry, I said it, but the the biomechanical stuff, the bionics isn't because of isn't.
Yeah, no,
because
that makes
this,
sense.
then this. It's the other way around.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked with them because I love the Iron Hands. There's layers to it. I mean, all these legions have a lot of layers, with the exception of the Space Wolves. They're pretty subtle, but they're pretty one-dimensional, and they're supposed to be one-dimensional. Mind you, the Space Wolves have a lot of. Okay, that's not fair on Space Wolves players, because there's a lot of stuff wrapped up in their lore and the way that they're kept deliberately blind of the bigger picture.
Yep.
And the way they want to be kept deliberately blind to the bigger picture. So there is layers to the Space Wars as well. But many of the best legions, or the most interesting legions, have lots of layers to them.
Yep.
And the Iron Hands have a lot of different layers. I mean, they have Forge Masters as their chapter masters.
Yeah.
Ferrus Manus, his command bridge, he promoted dissent in his ranks. He wanted people to argue against him. He wanted to see which military proposal endured the scrutiny of dissent. He was a very forward-thinking Primarch when it came to battle tactics, and he was very open in allowing each of his Forge Masters to change their entire companies in the way they see fit. Very flexible. Despite the enduring line, there's fascinating layers in the Iron. What I want to say is there's fascinating layers in the Iron Hand story which you wouldn't expect to see at the beginning. And an overview, you think, oh, they're the double-hard bastards, but no, there's a lot more to them than that, which is very interesting once you start delving down there. I'll shut up now. You'll go. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, we'll be coming back to all of the chapters later on, as you know, as this podcast progresses, and we'll be able to delve into them a lot deeper. But that's the first 10 Primarchs there. We need to make sure that we have enough time to really chat about each one. So it is worth us breaking this up into 2 parts now, so that we can let Winters go off and explain all the things he wants to explain about Iron Hands, things like that.
No. We'll tie that, put that in a bow. But in the first 10, your fave is Curze, right?
Definitely Curze. He's got a very. I mean, apart from all the stuff I've already gushed about Curze, his role in the entire thing is so clear. You know, it's not ambiguous. You know exactly what he's going to do, and you know exactly what he's there for. And the way that, thankfully, it's been written later on, that ADB has kind of fleshed these things out is that it could have been so basic. It could have been so go there and cackle and scare everybody, and that's your weapon. But he has done such a great job of turning it into so much more. So absolutely, my favourite tool in the toolbox is Curze. And what would you say?
Curze as well. The character is so well written, so well fleshed out, and it's that I wish the Emperor didn't need that tool because it is so horrific.
Yeah.
But of course, in a galaxy where there are demons that can come out of the shadows and eat you, you need something scarier than the demons.
Yes.
Hey, I'm scared of those demons. And they think, no, you're scared. You don't want the Night Lords coming for you.
Yeah. The thing you got to remember as well is that in terms of the books that we read, we can the writers can present the visceral, violent aspects of the grimdark world. They can do it in quite a visceral way. You can have people's heads explode, blah 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 blah. But the way that that Chaos operate, a lot of it is you can't write it because you have to imply it, especially Slaanesh and things like that. But the things that could happen are, if you were to really think about what information you're given, are considerably worse than what can be written on a page. So to think that you have to have something to combat that is it actually makes the Night Lords look like pretty decent guys, you know. If you step into Slaanesh's realm and see what's going on there,
they're not. They're not decent. They're not decent, and they know it, and they revel in it.
Even their characters, like when you have to write a book about chaos, and you have to write a protagonist, and you have to remember. I mean, you have to make characters that people can identify with. The fact that, like Telos, for example, is so skillfully written in the fact that he's just a complete and utter piece of shit. But you don't think that until you step back from the book and go, hang on a minute. Like, if I'm anyone but his little band of people, he is the worst nightmare for me. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful.
Sevatar is absolutely beautifully written as well.
Yep.
I think there's something in literature about the bad guy who fights on the side of good. There's something about Hannibal. He's a cannibal, Hannibal the cannibal, but he's doing a bit of good here. There's something about that character, that archetype that sings to us, the anti-hero.
Yeah.
And the Night Lords, just like everything in Horus, just like everything in the grimdark 41st millennium, everything's turned up to 11. So they're the most anti-hero. Yeah, and Talos he's all the decisions he makes all the way through.
Yeah,
read the Night Lords trilogy.
Go
people.
read it. Yeah,
it is epic, and it stands. It's like 10 years old or 15 years old, but it still stands the test of time. It's beautiful,
so good. And if you're not a reader, the Audible version is great as well. The narrator they've got who did the Night Lords trilogy.
Is that Toby Longworth?
I can't remember his name, but he does all three of them, and he also does the Curze book as well. He is
nice,
outstanding. He just gets those characters really well, and his performance is incredible. So go do it. And we got to stop. I've got to stop gushing about this every time we get to Night Lords. I just go listen to it, please, and tell me you've done it. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us for the first 10 Primarchs. We set off thinking maybe we'd do them all, but there's no chances there. So the first 10 Primarchs are down. In the next episode, we will take a look, starting with it'll be starting with a lost.
We can't start. Don't worry about that one.
Yeah. We're not allowed to talk about that guy. So we'll kick off with the next set of Primarchs, and we've got some interesting ones coming up in there. Some very interesting ones actually. So
very interesting.
Make sure you join us. Who's your favourite Primarch and why? Right below.
Yeah. What books do you recommend? And have you got any? What do you want to say about the Primarchs? Is there something that really shouts out to you? I'd love reading the comments to these narrative things that we do below. So please engage below. If you are if you do want to become a channel member, then there is an STC link in my Discord. Tier 1, you just become a channel member and support me and get emojis and badges and a warm feeling in your belly for supporting me. Tier 2 unlocks my Discord. Tier 3 unlocks the Discord and all the extra content that you can get as well. Plug. Go on, Chris, back to you. Sorry.
I was going to say as well, if you want to reach out, I mean, one of the things that we do intend to do, it's quite a new podcast, but if we get a little following of people and you've got some lore questions that are interesting and perhaps lesser trod questions that we could really have a little bite into and have a proper think about, you can drop it on the Discord. There's an STC room. It's not really being utilised at the moment, but you can make that change. You can be in there, tagging me and Winters in it and saying, look, this is the thing. So do that. And yeah, I think that's everything. Sign up to the channel and do the thing and join the thing. And we'll come back to you. Hopefully, we'll be back on track now that, the next one will be out just after Christmas. So hopefully we'll all be not busy anymore, not flying around and hosting Germans and all the things that have been happening. And we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Love you.
I love you, Chris.
I love you too.
And I love you too.
I love everybody.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. Love you. Bye. Where's the stop button? Bye.